Good morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. It's great to have you along. Just winding things up to get going. So thanks for letting me join you. I really appreciate it.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense, no prescription required.
And as usual, it's a mad dash.
Americans play to win all the time. I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Belfrage.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. It's Tuesday, April 22nd. Really fabulous to have you along this morning. I appreciate it. Big story now is we are learning the Vatican has revealed that the Pope died of a cerebral stroke, they said, and it led to a coma, irreversible heart failure yesterday. So he woke up at 6 a.m. yesterday, fell ill at 7 a.m., and then by 7:35 he had passed away, according to reports. So the Pope officially dying of a stroke yesterday, and that continues to be a big story. And the president was asked about the Pope yesterday. The White House Easter egg roll was yesterday, and the president, of course, being asked about the Pope and saying that he was a great man, saying that flags would be lowered throughout the United States to honor the passing of the Pope. And then, of course, it was the White House Easter egg roll, and it's pretty incredible. You look at the legacy media headlines, and it's just jaw-dropping, I think. So the president, wishing everyone a happy Easter. Melania was there. And as he said, happy Easter, he said it was a beautiful day yesterday and it's a beautiful day today. We don't have to worry about sunburn, but it looks like it's not going to be raining. So the comment that Trump made, that's an Associated Press report. And I looked at several. The line that the president had that's not being included in legacy media reports is the president's there, the bunny is there. You got somebody in an Easter bunny costume who is also there. And remember the Easter bunny during Joe Biden he was president, and the Easter bunny had to lead Joe Biden out. Remember this? Well, the president remembers it. And he said, remember when the bunny took Joe Biden out? He's not taking Trump out, Trump said. That was a beautiful moment when the bunny saved Joe Biden. Beautiful moment, Trump said. And then you look at the legacy media headlines. It is just absolutely incredible. So USA Today had a pretty straightforward headline. White House Easter egg roll. How to watch the event that will use 30,000 real eggs. Here comes the Washington Post. Are you ready? At the White House Easter egg roll, the First Lady has risen. Wow. What a disrespectful, just absolutely incredible. The White House Easter egg roll features big tech logos, branding, that's CNN. And then AP, in the story that I shared with you, there were a number of stories from AP. At least it's a sad day when the Associated Press is a little more balanced than the CNN and Washington Post and some of the other legacy media throughout the country. They said White House egg roll welcomes thousands. And then USA Today had another story. Why were 30,000 eggs used at White House egg roll when there is a bird flu egg crisis? Oh, my Lord. It's just, these people just absolutely, they never relent. Speaking of that, Big story this morning is NPR's report claiming that the president is seeking to replace Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. This is what NPR is saying. And Carolyn Levitt says no such thing. Absolutely. And it's all regarding this whole controversy over the use of Signal, that messaging app. And now they're saying that he had shared information with his wife and his brother on in a Signal message chat. And Carolyn Levitt having none of this yesterday. She said this NPR story is total fake news based on one anonymous source who clearly has no idea what they are talking about. As the president said this morning, he stands strongly behind the Secretary of Defense. So NPR says the White House has begun the process of looking for a new Secretary of Defense. According to a U.S. official, was not authorized to speak publicly, but that didn't stop them, did it? There we go again. Not authorized to speak publicly. Therefore, of course, I'm going to speak anyway. It just blows me away. Absolutely blows me away. You got to find who those people are and get rid of them. Seriously, if you're that unprincipled, well, I'm not authorized to speak, but I'm going to speak anyway. That just chaps me. Is that just me? Or does that bother you too? So Carolyn Levitt having none of it. The White House Rapid Response account shared a post slamming the report. They said lies from NPR, which, as we all know, is a fake news propaganda machine. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I would love Congress to pull funding from NPR and PBS. This is another reason why I don't believe taxpayers should be funding NPR and PBS. Not at all. Lord knows there are enough, nutty people in this country who would love this. So I was trying to look. Yeah, Pete Hegseth was asked about this by reporters yesterday as well. Forgive me. And he said, what a big surprise that he said, a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out of the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. He said, they got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. He said, as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. He said, see, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources, in this case, one anonymous source, one. Most won't even do that. They get two, or at least they say 2 or 3. They've got, generally it's 3. And I don't know if you never know if that's true or they're just making that up. They got 1 and they say there's 3. It just sounds better, not just 1 anonymous source, 3. In this case, it's 1. But Hegseth said as they peddled those lies, no one ever calls them on it. And he said they take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputation. Not going to work with me, he said. These anonymous smears don't matter to him. So he's standing fast. The White House is standing fast. And that's a big story this morning. I don't know that it should be. It is what it is. Also, you've got Harvard involved in this, trying to go nose to nose with the Trump administration over funding. And I love the comments from Alan Dershowitz. He was on Newsmax yesterday. And it's worth noting because Alan Dershowitz is a law school professor emeritus at Harvard, okay? And he says Harvard's going to lose this in the Supreme Court. Harvard filed suit to stop the federal freeze on more than $2.2 billion in grants. And Dershowitz said federal government has no legal obligation to fund universities. And he said Harvard's going to lose. There's no obligation legally, the government, to fund a $53 billion university. He said, I don't understand the basis of the lawsuit. They're claiming First Amendment, but Harvard has the First Amendment right to speak and to teach and academic freedom. It doesn't have the right to get funding, he said, which is a great point. He's absolutely right. He said, I think the lawsuit is designed to send a message to the administration. Come sit down and negotiate. Their two lawyers who they hired initially are negotiators. They're close to the Trump family and Trump business. And I think this is simply a ploy to try to get a resolution. So Dershowitz said they're likely going to settle. But he says if there's a win here, it's got to go to the Trump administration. He said about a third of the things that the government asked for from Harvard are right. They should do it. A third of them may be wrong, and about a third of them are subject to negotiation. So this case will settle. But if it goes to the Supreme Court, it's going to lose. Harvard may win in the district court because it's Massachusetts, but it will lose in the Supreme Court. So Harvard and this issue of funding, and I love what Dershowitz is saying here, that Harvard has a First Amendment right to speak and to teach and to their academic freedom, but they don't have a right to get government funding. Can we have that enshrined somewhere? Because that should be. All right. Also, this story also from Newsmax. You remember Dr. Robert Redfield, who was the former director of the Centers for Disease Control? He told Newsmax yesterday, he said he's very happy with the White House making it clear and unambiguous about the origin of COVID-19. And he said, they've come out very clearly and said that it came from the lab. I think we're going to see the rest of the intelligence agencies redo their analysis between now and July, and they'll all conclude unanimously that it came from the lab. Get this behind us, he said. This virus was created by gain-of-function research, and it was funded, unfortunately, by the United States government. And Redfield, you'll remember his name because he was the director of the CDC during Donald Trump's first term. And he has told Newsmax before he was ostracized, ridiculed, called a racist, received death threats for talking at the time that COVID came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. And so this is what he's been among those who have been saying this throughout. And he said there needs to be a global moratorium on gain-of-function research. And he thinks the president's going to do that. He said, I've been told soon, it can't be soon enough. And provide leadership, in the United States and hopefully the rest of the world, that we shouldn't be intentionally trying to make pathogens more infectious, more dangerous for humans. It's not a smart use of our scientific capacity, he said. So that was Dr. Redfield on Newsmax. Also, there's a story in FoxNews.com this morning. The commander of Fort McCoy relieved of duty after the base failed to install photos of President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. So this woman was suspended as garrison commander of Fort McCoy in Wisconsin. And U.S. Army Reserve Command said it's not related to any misconduct, but Hegseth over the weekend reposted an ex-post claiming that the chain of command board at Fort McCoy was missing photos of Trump, Vance, and Hegseth, and that she had been suspended. Also, Kristi Noem remains in the news, and you may have even heard this on Fox News Radio. Joe Bowman had a story about it this morning at the Tello.com News Center. Kristi Noem's bag was stolen during dinner on Sunday night. She was in a Washington, D.C. restaurant, and her bag was stolen with $3,000 of cash inside. So she was at the Capitol Burger about a mile away from the White House, and a person familiar with the case said she had just finished paying when she felt a brush against her leg. She initially thought it was one of her grandchildren, where she realized her bag was missing. And why $3,000? That was a question I had as well. And Department of Homeland Security said, well, her entire family was in town, including her children and grandchildren. She was using the cash withdrawal to treat her family to dinner, activities, Easter gifts. And her bag also contained, like it would, I think, for many, her driver's license, passport, her DHS badge, makeup, checks, bank card, and so on. So it was a Gucci shoulder bag that Kristi Noem was carrying. So at this point, I don't think there has been, no suspect that it, if there's a suspect, it had not been identified as of yesterday. It sounds like there is a suspect, but has not been identified. They said the suspect glanced around the restaurant before grabbing Noem's bag, covering it with his jacket, and then hustling out of the restaurant. So likely we'll hear more about that. Also, there is still stories that are out there this morning, and these are still trending. Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen, who was on the Sunday shows, talking about his trip to El Salvador, trying to get Kilmar Abrego Garcia released. He's the illegal from El Salvador who was deported to El Salvador. He's considered a member of MS-13. And so Van Hollen was asked about this. First of all, who paid for the trip? Well, taxpayers. So Bream said, she's asking him about funding, who paid for the airfare, the food and drinks. And Bream said, so taxpayer dollars? Yes, like every other trip. This isn't every other trip, though. So public funds, I think you do that, but so there's a lot of reaction to that. He also, as he was on these Sunday shows, he ignored questions about Abrego Garcia's MS-13 ties. Dana Bash asked him repeatedly about that issue, and he ignored the question. So the president yesterday on his True Social account, and Now, this is, again, because I mentioned this to you yesterday morning, that the president had posted a photo of him at the Resolute desk holding a photo of Abrego Garcia's hand, and tattooed on the hand is MS-13. So the president reposted that photo last evening, and then he said again, now this is a different post. He said, this is the man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, that the courts are trying to save from being deported. He was supposed to be, according to the judge and the Democrats, a wonderful father from Maryland. But then they noticed he had MS-13 tattooed onto his knuckles and lots of really bad stories about his past. This is the gang that is perhaps the worst of them all. What is wrong with our country? The president asked. And there are other photos. Those of you, I think, who are on actually likely have seen these. Other photos that show Van Hollen meeting with this guy, and his Garcia's hand is down at his side, and there's the tattoo. I mean, you zoom in on it, and there's the tattoo. It's right there for everybody to see. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. Thanks for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. It's really great to have you along. 627, fair skies and 47. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, the Gift You More Tire and Automotive Store.
For years, Senator John Thune has been a strong supporter of America's small businesses, recognizing that they need a level playing field to compete against larger corporations. Thank you, Senator Thune, for leading the fight to protect the 20% small business tax deduction, empowering South Dakota's small businesses to hire, expand, and invest in our communities. Visit smallbusinessdeduction.com to learn how you can support the effort to stop the massive tax hike on small businesses. Paid for by the National Federation of Independent Business.
It's time to stop making excuses. The peace of mind you get after a colonoscopy is worth it. It's the best way to prevent and detect one of the deadliest cancers. In fact, your doctor can remove precancerous polyps during the procedure if necessary. That's right, before it even turns to cancer. No buts about it. Get a colonoscopy at 45 and follow up every 10 years, or as recommended by your doctor. Find a location or schedule now at avera.org/colon.
Grocery prices are still through the roof. Natural disasters are still devastating. And supply chains are still fragile. That's why millions of Americans are turning to My Patriot Supply, the country's most trusted preparedness company. Right now, they're offering $200 off their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. This kit feeds one adult 2,000 calories a day for 3 full months. It's packed in sturdy, long-lasting containers with a 25-year shelf life. And best of all, it ships fast and free. But this special offer is only available for a limited time. My Patriot Supply rarely offers discounts this steep, so if there's ever a time to get prepared, this is it. Get ahead of the next crisis. Whether it's a natural disaster, supply chain disruption, or something bigger, you'll be glad you took action. Go to mypatriotsupply.com to claim your $200 discount. That's mypatriotsupply.com. Again, mypatriotsupply.com. Stock up on peace of mind today.
Mostly sunny skies today and pretty nice temperatures. High at 72. Northwest wind
72. Oh,
a few passing clouds.
it was beautiful yesterday.
High temperature back to 73. Northeast wind 10 to 15. Slight chance of a shower. Better chances of rain arriving on Thursday with a high at 64. From the Storm Center.
And in Sioux Falls at 6:30, fair skies and 47. Coming up, Fox News Radio just ahead. Then we'll check in with Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. And then I'll run down all of the stories that are trending this morning. Belf's News Gallery is on the way here at Kello.
The funeral for Pope Francis has been set for Saturday at 10 a.m. local time in St. Peter's Square as Cardinals meet to plan the conclave to elect his successor.
It will be an enormous event witnessed by world leaders, including President Donald Trump. Last night, the Vatican revealed Pope Francis died from a stroke and subsequent heart failure. His will confirmed his wish to be buried in Rome rather than the Vatican, and that a mystery benefactor will pay for the funeral.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. Public viewing for the Pope will begin tomorrow morning. President Trump defending Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth after news of a possible second signal chat involving Yemen plans.
And White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also dismissed an NPR report that the administration is seeking to replace the defense secretary. She called it fake news.
Fox's Brooke Singman. America's listening to Fox News.
Weather brought to you by Infinity Sedation Dentistry, Sioux Falls. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Hello, News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. South Dakotans are remembering Pope Francis after his passing yesterday at the age of 88. Senate Majority Leader John Thune shared a statement yesterday morning praising the Pope's faith and compassion. South Dakota Senator Mike Rounds also took to social media highlighting the Pope's service and his, quote, simplicity. The Vatican says Pope Francis died of a stroke. The pontiff was recovering from double pneumonia, which caused respiratory issues and kept him hospitalized earlier this year for more than a month. Pope Francis's funeral will be this Saturday at St. Peter's Basilica, and here locally, a memorial mass for Francis will be taking place in the coming days at the Cathedral of St. Joseph in Sioux Falls. The task force that's looking for a solution to replace the aging South Dakota Penitentiary meets again next week. Project Prison Reset will meet up at the Mike Durfee State Prison in Springfield on April 29th for a tour of the facility. Task Force Chairman, Lieutenant Governor Tony Venheisen, believes the Durfee State Prison is a good example of what the new prison should be.
That campus holds a lot of inmates and has a lot of vocational programs there. Of course, the governor's houses are built there. I thought it was important for the task force to see that facility, see what the buildings are like, what condition they're in, see the programs that are offered there. Really is a comparison to what we have here in Sioux Falls.
The Mike Durfee State Prison began accepting inmates 40 years ago on the former USD Springfield campus. The task force makes its recommendations to the South Dakota legislature on a special session in July. And two South Dakota law enforcement agencies are officially working with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Both the Hughes and Minnehaha County Sheriff's Offices are partnering with ICE to delegate certain deputies as warrant service officers. These officers can identify immigration violators who are already in custody and potentially aid in immigration proceedings. This comes as local authorities continue to seek more resources from ICE during increased efforts to find and remove illegal aliens from the state. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
After showers last night, today's forecast turning dry. Our high temperature at 72, mostly sunny, northwest wind at 10 to 20. For tonight, a few passing clouds, low in the mid-40s, and then for tomorrow, back up in the low 70s with more clouds in the afternoon. A slight chance of a shower, better chance of rain Thursday. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm Brian Karstens.
What was that?
I just want to bring up a point here.
This is where to go when you've got something to say.
You have to tell these people that they want to know.
Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Let's talk about all these ads you see and hear from internet service providers and mobile phone carriers. You know the ones. Breathless and excited paid actors telling you that if you act right now and sign a new deal with them, they will lock in your rate for 3 years, maybe even 5 years. Sounds too good to be true? It is. I'm Kim Commando for DraftKings Pick 6. Stay tuned to hear all that DraftKings has to offer. DraftKings, the crown is yours. What all these ads are implying is that the bandwidth that powers your internet service and mobile phone is growing scarce, and you better lock in your best deal today. And yes, we're using more bandwidth than ever, but we're building more infrastructure than ever to handle it all. Bandwidth and speeds are growing. Prices are actually going down. You're constantly getting faster connections at lower prices. So don't be the sucker. Don't get locked in. There's always a better and a cheaper plan just right around the corner. Join over 650,000 people each day who get my free newsletter. Sign up at getkim.com. Ready to win some real cash during the basketball playoffs? Check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 dunks on the competition, including prize picks. Hit all your picks and score higher minimum payouts on Pick 6 Plus even more cash if you outscore the competition. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KIM. That's code KIM for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, with 2 locations to make sure you have the proper traction this winter.
For years, Senator John Thune has been a strong supporter of America's small businesses, recognizing that they need a level playing field to compete against larger corporations. Thank you, Senator Thune, for leading the fight to protect the 20% small business tax deduction, empowering South Dakota's small businesses to hire, expand, and invest in our communities. Visit smallbusinessdeduction.com to learn how you can support the effort to stop the massive tax hike on small businesses. Paid for by the National Federation of Independent Business.
Tune in for the Town and Country Show this morning at 10 o'clock. The Minnehaha chapter of the South Dakota Farm Bureau connects consumers with agriculture by sharing the heart of farm family life. They explore a variety of topics about how agriculture impacts farmers, business owners, rural communities, and city residents. Join Crystal Smith for the Farm Bureau Town and Country Show today at 10 a.m. here on Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Surprise! Your expenses this month were way higher than you expected. Also, you forgot to renew your website domain, and now you're in a bidding war.
You should see the look on your face.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Plus, the fridge died in the break room, and now everything smells weird.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
News has its own rhythm. You can't predict when it's going to happen. It disregards calendars. It doesn't text you an invite. You need to keep up. We're here to help. Every time you listen, check back with us 3, 4, 5 times a day. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9. Stimulating talk.
.639, fair skies and 47. Good morning and welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. This hour brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. That was a rough night for the Sioux Falls Stampede last night. They lost 6-2 to Waterloo as they continue in the USHL playoffs. So now the Sioux Falls Stampede are in a must-win situation. They've got a game coming up tonight. They must win tonight in order to play again Friday night. If they lose tonight, they're done. If they win tonight, then there will be a game on Friday night to determine the best of 3 winner of that series. So best of luck to the Sioux Falls Stampede coming up tonight.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, we're learning the cause of the death of Pope Francis. As you know, he died yesterday morning. That's a big story this morning. And now the Vatican is revealing that he died of a cerebral stroke that led to a coma and then irreversible cardiocirculatory collapse. So he was affected by a previous episode of acute respiratory failure. So he had been battling a number of health issues, as I'm sure you know, and died early yesterday morning. So Pope Francis, again, it was a cerebral stroke that led to a coma and his death. So the president yesterday ordering flags across the United States to be flown at half staff as a mark of respect for the memory of Pope Francis. And the president said he was a good man, worked hard, he loved the world. The president made the comments yesterday during the White House Easter egg roll. Also, and there are just a number of stories regarding the Pope, the Catholic Church that are trending. Also, the conclave on the horizon, and a lot of speculation as to who the next pope could be. See a number of different stories. Fox News, who could be the next pope? Euro News, who are the possible contenders to replace Pope Francis? So a lot of speculation, and the conclave coming up. There are a number of stories also trending just about the Pope's death, as well as his follow-ups to his appearance over the weekend. Just a great number of stories trending, all surrounding the Pope and his death. Also, Harvard University has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, and lawyers, this is the president of Harvard, Ellen Garber, said moments ago we filed the lawsuit to halt the funding freeze because it is unlawful and beyond the government's authority. Oh, really? Really? I mean, how do you feel about that? Federal government is not impeding Harvard's right to free speech, right to teach what it wishes. They're just saying, federal government, we're just not going to fund Harvard. And I think that's worth talking about. Also, the White House lashing out yesterday at a New York Times report of a second signal messaging chat created by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth that they say included his wife and brother. And in that, he shared details of the military airstrike against the Houthi terrorists. He said no such thing took place, absolutely. White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly said no matter how many times the legacy media tries to resurrect the same non-story, they can't change the fact that no classified information was shared. She also said recently fired leakers are continuing to misrepresent the truth in order to soothe their shattered egos and undermine the president's agenda. But the administration will continue to hold them accountable. So the president also responded to this, and he just said basically the same thing. It's a non-story. Still trending this morning are the comments of Senator Chris Van Hollen, who met with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is the man who was deported by the Trump administration. He's an illegal alien from El Salvador, and he was sent to El Salvador. And so CNN's Dana Bash over the weekend pressed Senator Van Hollen as to whether or not he's an MS-13 gang member. And Mediaite says the senator twice deflected the question and said that answering that would be playing a game that President Donald Trump wants to force Democrats into. Oh, yeah. Yes, Senator Van Hollen was forced to get on that plane, ladies and gentlemen. He was forced to get on that plane, forced to go to El Salvador at taxpayer expense. Oh, man, you have got to be kidding. And he's also saying that this is a story. Now, this is more of a traditional legacy media story. You've got The Hill saying, they're reporting that Senator Van Hollen saying the president of El Salvador wanted his meeting with Garcia to look like he was in paradise, because initially they wanted, and I'm not doubting this, I'm not questioning it. Actually, I think it's hilarious that President Bukele wanted the meeting poolside. He wanted to hold it by the pool. And Van Hollen knew that would be a bad look. So no, he didn't want to have by the pool. They had to negotiate as to where they were going to meet. And what they did was they brought Garcia to Van Hollen's hotel. That's where they met. So Van Hollen didn't go anywhere. They brought Garcia to Van Hollen. And he's saying they wanted to hold it poolside. But he said he wound up getting a call saying, we will bring him to your hotel. And that's how we met. And they tried to make it look like he was in paradise. They actually wanted to have the meeting by the hotel pool originally, he said. We had to negotiate that. They wanted to put me right overlooking the pool. That cracks me up. And since I have more respect now, the more we learn about the president of El Salvador. Okay, also, and then, the Democrats look bad on their own. You got these photos of Van Hollen standing there with Garcia, and, they're visiting with each other, and it's kind of a long shot. So you see the two men standing. And you see Garcia's got his left arm draped down along his side. And you see his tattoos and right along his knuckles. You can see it. They blow it up. MS-13 right tattooed right along his knuckles. Absolutely crazy. Speaking of off the wall, this story is trending about a mayor in Southern California. He's been condemned for comments that he made at a city council meeting earlier this year, and footage of it has just come out. You've got California that's been gripped with a fentanyl crisis. Much of the country is. Most of California is having a housing crisis as well. And so this is, the mayor is R. Rex Paris, the mayor of Lancaster, California. He's 73 years old. He's a Republican. And he was asked about how does he plan to tackle this crisis. And he said, what I want to do is give them free fentanyl, he said. And Daily Mail says that he mentioned this to the bewilderment of everybody else in the room. I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to give them all the fentanyl they want. And you can imagine the reaction to this, folks. There was a resident who was testifying at the time, and he said he told the mayor that the comments were not kind. And then you've got reaction from people on social media, and you can imagine what their reaction is. Suffice it to say That is a pretty controversial opinion. Give them all fentanyl? Wow. Pretty cold. Also, story is trending about Kristi Noem's purse being stolen on Sunday night at Washington, D.C. restaurant. I shared a lot of details about that with you in the last segment. But her bag contained a number of personal items, including her driver's license, passport, her DHS access badge, checks, about $3,000 in cash. And she explained that she was out celebrating Easter with her family, and they were doing a number of different things, and that was, for them to enjoy the day. Also, trending this morning, former NFL star Shannon Sharpe was sued over the weekend by an anonymous woman who's accusing him of rape and sexual assault. 13-page complaint filed in Nevada. And she said she was in a rocky consensual relationship that lasted nearly 2 years. Now she's suing him. A few other sports stories that are trending this morning. In a video posted to Instagram yesterday, Cooper Flagg announced that he'll be entering the 2025 NBA draft. He said, "New fans, my teammates, the brotherhood, and everybody that was along for this journey, it was an incredible year," he said. "I have so much gratitude. I feel so blessed for all the opportunities I was given." So now he'll be entering the 2025 NBA draft. Also, Nico Lamaliva has a new team. He confirmed this on social media. He will be heading to UCLA. So the UCLA coaching staff reportedly told its quarterbacks that he is expected to transfer to the Bruins, ESPN says. And so he is confirmed on social media, and again, this is Nico Lamaliva, that he will be headed for UCLA. Also trending this morning, Nadine Menendez. She is the wife of former U.S. Senator Bob Menendez. She was convicted yesterday of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bribes in exchange for her husband doing favors for Egypt and for New Jersey businessmen. So she was found guilty on all 15 counts that she faced: bribery, honest services wire fraud, conspiracy for a public official to act as a foreign agent. She had pled not guilty, found guilty on all of the 15 counts. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito has been critical of his colleagues for temporarily halting deportation flights under the Alien Enemies Act. And Alito said they literally did this in the middle of the night. And these are comments that he actually made over the weekend. So the order was sent out at about midnight Saturday night. And it's not sitting well with Justice Alito. He said, "I refuse to join the court's order because we had no good reason to think that under the circumstances, issuing an order at midnight was necessary or appropriate. Do you know who Steve Hilton is? He's a former Fox News host and a podcaster. Hilton is trending because he's running for governor of California. Hilton announced his candidacy yesterday. He'll launch his campaign with a rally today in Huntington Beach, and a campaign message that he's been out on a recent book tour, and he's been talking about California failing. And he says the Democratic supermajority in the state is to blame. He said, I just want to ask people to imagine what California would be like after another 15 years of one-party rule by the Democrats, yet more stagnation and decline. You look at the state of California today, it's just a disaster on every front, he said. Also, a couple of fighter jets in the UK, these are Royal Air Force fighter jets, have intercepted Russian aircraft flying close to NATO airspace. They intercepted them twice in a week. So 2 RAF Typhoons were scrambled last Tuesday to intercept a Russian intelligence aircraft over the Baltic Sea. And then on Thursday, another 2 Typhoons scrambled to intercept an unknown aircraft leaving airspace in Russia and close to NATO airspace. So a couple of times in the past week that Russian aircraft have been flying near NATO airspace. Airspace happened twice in the span of a week. The gunman who killed 23 people in an attack at a Texas Walmart in 2019 expected to accept a plea deal in order to avoid the death penalty. So, one of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. He's acknowledged that he targeted Hispanics in 2019 when he opened fire in the store. And this is in El Paso. And that's a look at the stories that are trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. 6:57, fair skies and 47. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Thanks, my friend, for letting me join you. Please come back at 9:30 for the 4th hour. I hope to see you then. Otherwise, have a great Tuesday.